This is Outnumbered. I'm Andrea Tanteros. Here today, Harris Faulkner, Sandra Smith, Jedediah Bila, and today's hashtag, one lucky guy, Arthur Idala Fox.
Wow.
And he's officially, for the first time, outnumbered. Welcome, Arthur.
Well, thank you very much. It is rare in a man's life that you get to be surrounded by this degree of greatness. But so I am humbled on the intellectual front, and obviously no one's watching the show to look at me. That's
You're off
for sure.
to a great start already.
Well,
I was going to say, flattery does get you everywhere.
I learned that in law school when I did have hair. Yes, I did. So thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. And hopefully I could add a little something to the conversation.
You always do. Energy and fun. So
we
can't
are confident in you.
All right, right now on the Hill, IRS Commissioner John Koskinen back on the hot seat in the IRS targeting scandal as lawmakers try to get to the bottom of the agency's ever-changing story on what happened to Lois Lerner's crashed hard drive and the crashed hard drives of other IRS employees. Now, in previous testimony, Commissioner Koskinen said Lerner's email crashed, her hard drive had crashed, and was gone for good, and so were all the backup tapes. But now an IRS official in charge of keeping track of documents telling oversight investigators that those backups may not really be gone after all, and an IT professional told investigators for another committee, House Ways and Means, that Lerner's drive was never destroyed in the first place, but simply scratched. So which one is it? That's what Republicans want to know.
Lois Lerner's laptop was a new laptop. It was not an old one. And actually, the probability of her hard drive failing at that time was at the lowest, according to industry standards, was at the lowest possible time. Does that surprise you?
No.
All right. But it does surprise you that her hard drive failed.
No, I tell you, my understanding about it is from the industry, it's 2 to 5%, depending on the computers, are regularly.
So out of this circle, if you have 10 times that amount, would you say that's an anomaly?
His question cuts right to the chase. She was on notice that there was a problem, and suddenly her computer crashes. But it's worse than that. The IRS has identified 82 custodians of information that are relevant to the investigation, and now we know from Mr. Kane's testimony last week, up to 20 may have had computer hard drive crashes. So this is way beyond the 3 to 5% that the commissioner keeps citing. This is approaching 25% of the relevant people that they've identified have had computer problems and may not be able to get us the documents they need.
Okay, my head's spinning. This is an agency that is supposed to be known and experts in record keeping. They can't seem to not just get their story straight, they can't seem to produce records not just on the hard drive, but on the main server. Arthur, I think a lot of people are wondering, are we ever going to have anybody brought to justice? There was clearly a cover-up, and they seem to be getting away with it.
So I have to put my lawyer hat on, right? Because that's what I do when I'm not playing one on TV. I actually am a criminal defense attorney. If this woman, if Lois Lerner came to me and she was charged with this crime, and this was her defense, Andrea, I would say, listen, this isn't going to fly. Like, no one's going to believe this. I think I'm pretty good with a jury, but I'm not going to be able to convince 12 jurors that in your position, with the technology at your disposal, the unlimited resources, your computer hard drive just, with this vital information died, and you don't have it backed up anywhere? I mean, I have my son's pictures backed up in 5 places. You don't have this. I said it's not credible. We cannot convince a jury of this, so we better brainstorm and come up with another defense, because this one's not going to work.
It seems, Jedediah, that maybe the best way to go about things, and a lot of lawmakers are weighing in on this, is to not target the Lois Lerners, because the top brass have pled the fifth and ran away, but it's the mid and lower level staffers that seem to be giving more information. You remember Elizabeth Hofaker, when D.C. tried to say, oh, it was that Cincinnati office. She said, no, it wasn't. It was Washington, D.C. that told me to start looking through Tea Party records. Should they start to get more information from the mid and low level staffers?
The hope that maybe those people would be embarrassed, too. I mean, it's amazing to me that there's no sense of shame. As you're saying, people carting this story out as if we're supposed to just believe it. We've gotten 3 different stories now. There's no data that's recoverable. Then it's shredded. Now it's scratched. I'm starting to imagine someone sitting with a key scratching this thing up. I mean, this is absolutely absurd. And I think a lot of Americans are asking, Is this deliberate? And how dumb do you really think we are? Because this story is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I wonder, Jedediah, when you say, is this deliberate, if you mean to the entire thing, or if you're referencing the scratch specifically? Because now House investigators are actually questioning whether or not the scratch was an accident or if it was deliberate. That being said, more about this, the data being recoverable. So the in-house IRS IT experts said that if this was a scratch, that means the data was recoverable. Okay, they said that. What they went on to say is that they recommended to the agency itself to bring in outside IT experts to then recover the data. That fell on deaf ears. Doesn't this make the case even stronger against the IRS? That they were told, hey, bring somebody else in here. We've got to recover this data, and didn't do it.
Yes, it's not credible. That's the word we use in my world. Is something believable? Is it going to be believable to 12, in my world, New York City jurors who are sanitation men and school teachers that as soon as you find out there's an issue, your computer fails? I mean, really? Where are you? No, you need to suspend reality to believe that that's true, and then take it to the next level, that it's not recoverable. I mean, what was it, lost in the ocean in Hurricane Sandy?
And Harris, when I think of scratching things, I think of scratching in the 90s, my Paula Abdul CD, and how upset I was when it scratched. And then Cold Hearted Snake would skip on my little Discman.
That's a great song.
But even if they scratch this, we've already been told by legal experts, and I'm sure Arthur could weigh in on this, that they broke the law by not having backups in the first place. So it doesn't even matter if it's scratched or not.
That they were supposed to keep those hard copies. Couple of things hit me right off the bat. I have never seen Arthur walk away from a fight. So the fact that he would not take Lois Lerner's case should say
we would
a
have to
whole
find
lot
a different way to fight it, but that is not the answer. That is not the answer.
But the other thing, you know, as a reporter, if I were going to be investigating this for the news, the first thing I would be looking at now is, why is the story changing? Right? What's the motive behind a story changing? Because there always is one. Is it because somebody has now popped up with these emails? Is that why? Because the story is changing. The needle has moved on this. We've gone from it was destroyed to, well, it was damaged. You know, an insurance company can replace if it's destroyed, but they're going to fix it if it's damaged. So where are they?
Answers may be on the way.
The story's changing. I want to know why.
That would be a good thing, but still so many unanswered questions. New concerns about fraud and Obamacare. Undercover government investigators are testifying on Capitol Hill today, telling lawmakers they were able to get taxpayer-subsidized health insurance using fake identities. They say it worked 11 out of the 18 times that they tried to do this, and the weak link seemed to be call centers that handled applications for thousands of people who aren't able to get through online. This is unbelievable. I mean, they tried, these undercover investigators tried online, by phone. They used fake social security numbers, sometimes no social security number at all, Harris. I mean, doesn't this just open the door and paint the picture of fraud all over this healthcare law?
So the administration's immediate answer to this was, well, in 6 instances they couldn't get through. That's not the number you want to focus on. Here are the numbers you want to know. There were 18 attempts and 11 were successful for them to gain access to Obamacare when they knew that they didn't have a reason to have those subsidies, when there was fraud involved. So 11 out of 18 times, that's a very high success rate for the fake guys, right? The other thing that you look at here, which is interesting too, is that the response was, well, we're going to look into this. Why don't we stop doing it until we can figure out what's broken about it?
Because it's pervasive, not just with Obamacare, it's evasive. Excuse me. It's all over the place on all government programs. I mean, there are units within the district attorney's offices based on welfare fraud, based on workman's compensation fraud.
Right.
So in any time, it's been from the beginning of time, when the government is giving you something for free, there are people unlike us whose integrity and morals aren't at the standards that we are, and they lie. Whether it's Hurricane Sandy relief, whether it's Katrina relief, or anything else, there are people who are not good people who are taking money that's designated for people who really need it, and they're taking it for themselves based on greed, and those people should be severely punished.
But this was this is his signature legislation.
I agree.
This is Obamacare. He had to know that his legacy would be impacted. You're releasing a law and a website that wasn't ready for prime time. The verification process is obviously all messed up. Now, what happens to these people that are getting subsidies that shouldn't be getting subsidies? This is an enormous mess.
Now we bring this full picture and we broaden this out to the 2 court rulings yesterday yesterday. One that says the government can subsidize health insurance. The other says that we can't. We've got these dual rulings. Your take on that?
In 30 seconds or less, what's going to happen is the court in Washington that ruled it illegal.
Yep.
The government, Obama, is going to ask for not 3 judges, but all the judges on the court to rule, which could be in his favor because they're mostly Democratic judges. And if they agree with the Richmond court, then the Supreme Court will not hear this case. But if they don't agree to hear the case or they don't agree with the Richmond court, then you will see this case go up to the Supreme Court and parse 3 words. It's a system created by the states, quote unquote, created by the states. Do you take that literally and it has to be created by the states, or could it be created by the federal government? And that's all encompassing, and the subsidies go into effect.
Could I just say something real quick? Because I think the viewers are very panicked about what this means, and they should be. Sure. This is what happens when bills are passed in the middle of the night,
and we don't know what's
and no one reads them.
And we don't know what's in it. It very clearly states, Sandra, in this law, through an exchange established by the state, which only 16 states did.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means a lot of low-income and middle-class people are not going to be getting their subsidies. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to drop their coverage. It's cheaper for them to do it.
Right back
so who's
into
going to be in the
emergency
system
rooms when they need help?
Who's going to be in the system? The most vulnerable, the most sick. This is causing chaos in the insurance industry, and I do think it is the death spiral that will unravel this entire law.
All ahead of another open enrollment period starting in November.
That's right.
More uncertainty. We've heard President Obama and his administration say they didn't know about the VA and other scandals until they heard it on the news. But Mr. Obama just told a group of supporters he doesn't watch the news. So what's the truth? Also, a